Let's be honest, when you think of industrial growth in India, Bihar probably isn't the first state that pops into your head. But you know what? The numbers are telling a really surprising, really complex story of resilience and expansion. Today, we're going to dive into the data to understand Bihar's enterprise sector, and it's a real tale of two very different economies.
So let's kick things off with a number that should make you sit up and pay attention. 12%. After the huge shock of the pandemic, Bihar's secondary sector, that's all your manufacturing and construction, it didn't just bounce back. No, it roared back with a solid 12% growth in 2022-23. This isn't just a recovery, folks. This is some serious momentum.
And what's going on behind that growth is frankly even more interesting. We're not just seeing more stuff being made, we're seeing it made more efficiently. Industrial labor productivity in Bihar has just soared, hitting an incredible 93.5% of the national average. I mean, that is a massive leap forward. The state is closing a long-standing gap, and it's doing it fast.
Okay, so that brings us to the first part of our story. We're going to look at the planned, structured side of the economy. The formal sector. This is where the big policies and the big money come into play.
It's the obvious question, right? How does a state pull off this kind of turnaround? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is a very deliberate push to get big-time industrial investment. The state's basically been rolling out the red carpet for investors, and boy, is it paying off.
Just get a load of this number. It really tells you everything you need to know about investor confidence. Between 2016 and September 2025, the state has gotten investment proposals for a staggering 1.11 lakh crore rupees. That's over $1 trillion rupees. You don't see that kind of money flowing unless people truly believe in the economic future here. Of course, a proposal is just a piece of paper, right? It's just the first step. The journey from an idea to an actual running factory is a whole process. It starts with that proposal, then it needs the initial okay from the government, then clearance for financial incentives, and only then does it become a real operational unit that's making things and hiring people.
And this chart really puts that whole pipeline into perspective. We started with over 4,300 proposals. And from that big number, 956 industrial units have made it all the way to the finish line and are now operational. That's a pretty solid conversion rate from paper plans to actual physical factories.
But what does this really mean for the people of Bihar? Well, those 956 new factories have created almost 43,000 jobs. That is the real-world, tangible result of that investment strategy. We're talking real employment, real opportunities.
So, what are all these new factories making? Well, this table breaks it all down, and one sector just jumps off the page. It's food processing. It is leading the pack by a long shot, and this makes perfect sense, right? You leverage Bihar's massive agricultural strengths to build up your industrial base. It's just smart.
Okay, but that formal, structured growth, that's only one side of the coin. Now we're going to pivot to part two of our story, the huge, grassroots, and often invisible informal economy that actually powers daily life for millions.
And that right there is the key. The investment figures, the factory counts, they're all super impressive, but they just don't capture the sheer scale of what's happening at the micro level. The real giant here is the unincorporated sector, the one operating outside all that formal structure.
I mean, just look at this data. The scale is absolutely mind-boggling. In the manufacturing sector alone, you have over 1 million micro-establishments. 1 million! These are the small, often family-run operations that are the true backbone of the state's economy.
This chart just drives that point home. Across every single sector, manufacturing, trade, services, these tiny, tiny micro-establishments make up pretty much every single unincorporated business in the state. We're talking about an economy that is built almost entirely from the ground up by small-scale entrepreneurs.
And deep inside this massive informal engine, there's another incredible story. When you look at who's actually running these micro-businesses, especially the ones based out of homes, one group stands out in a way that just completely bucks the national trends.
This is just remarkable. In Bihar, over two-thirds of the owners in household-based manufacturing units are women. Now compare that to the all-India average, which is less than 1/3. This is a powerful, powerful story of female entrepreneurship driving the grassroots economy.
So we've seen the big picture data for both economies, the formal and the informal. Now for part 3, let's look at a few success stories that show how all this economic energy is actually translating into real-world results.
A perfect example of bridging that gap between local and global is ComFed, which is the Bihar State Milk Cooperative Federation. This isn't just about selling milk down the street anymore. Nope, they have set their sights on international markets.
And guess what? They're succeeding. This data shows their very first international shipments. We're talking tons of cow ghee and makhana, that's fox nuts, heading all the way to the USA. And then you've got the sweet delicacy gulab jamun making its way to Canada. How cool is that? This is Bihar's agricultural heritage finding a global audience.
But hey, the growth story isn't just limited to things you can put in a box. Another sector that's seeing a massive boom is tourism. More and more people are coming to experience everything the state has to offer.
And look at this incredible jump. In just 1 year, the number of visitors to Bihar's ecotourism sites shot up by 24%. 24%. That brought the total to nearly 3.8 million people. Just think about what that kind of influx does for local jobs and service economies. It's huge.
So, we have these two powerful economic forces running in parallel, right? You've got the high investment formal sector, and you've got the massive women-led informal sector. And that brings us to the big question. What does the future hold?
So let's just recap it one last time. On one hand, you've got Bihar's formal economy. High capital, structured growth, thousands of new jobs. And on the other hand, you have the informal economy, absolutely massive in scale, low capital, and just powered by incredible grassroots entrepreneurship.
And this, right here, is the ultimate challenge and the ultimate opportunity for Bihar. Can they find a way to connect these two completely different economies? Can the investment and structure of the formal sector actually help lift up and empower the millions of micro-entrepreneurs in that informal engine? The answer to that question, well, that's what's going to define the next chapter of Bihar's economic story.